Can you just talk about what happened?
On Monday, September 10th, I went to the hearing to hear General Petraeus give his report. I got in line and was eager to hear his report because I recognized that his report would mean literally if people live or people die. So I got in line, I stood there, and then I had to do a radio interview. I got out of line, told the officer, hey, I'm going to be leaving. Can I go over here and do this radio interview? He said, no problem. So I went over there, did a radio interview, came back to the line. He said, no problem, got back in line. But this is when the problem was created. An officer comes up to me and walks down the line and starts passing out blue Post-it notes. At that point in time, he actually passes me and he passes Colonel Ann Wright and says he's not going to give us entrance into this process. He said, you can't get in. And I said, what's going on? What do you mean we can't get in? And he says, no, you can't get in. And so he literally keeps going in the line. And so we are sitting there wondering, like, what in the world is going on? And so we're saying, why can't we go in? And then we start pleading our case. And so as we're walking up in the line, we get to the front of the door, and we said, why can't we go in? This is important. As a citizen, and I'm pleading with them, I said, as someone who was in the Air Force, we need to get in. And it's amazing because the officer is just denying, you can't get in. We're asking him to talk to the other officer. And the other officer is literally telling him, yeah, it's no problem. They were in line. And instead, he wouldn't let us in. And then at that point in time, Congressman Diane Watson walks up, and he actually backs away. All these policemen back away. And she says, how's it going? And Colonel Ann tells him, well, they won't let us in. And then she says, y'all need to let them in. And then she walks away. And then somebody walks up with a ticket and says, why don't you let them in? And gives one to Colonel Wright. And then she says, I have a ticket. And the officer says, well, I didn't give you that ticket. He says, but I have a ticket. And he says, go on in. And I said, well, what about me? This is important. I was in line. Why won't you let me in? Why are you singling me out? You can't get in. And by that time, the police had surrounded me. I'm just asking, and they told me I would be arrested. And before I knew it, there was somebody be arrested. And I'm thinking, I'm here to hear a hearing. I'm just here to hear a hearing. I recognize that when generals lie, soldiers die. And it's important for me to be here, for my community, to report back on what this general is saying about the status of Iraq. And they wouldn't let me in. And then finally somebody says, you're arrested. I remember somebody grabbing my shoulder. I remember turning. Before I knew it, I was down on the ground. And I just felt this huge weight. And I remember I literally was going head first into the concrete. And I was thinking, man, if I hit this concrete, it's over. And I hit my knee. And there's actually a bruise burn or like a brush burn on my knee, still in the pants where I hit. And I felt my ankle go out. I just felt like this pop. At that moment, I just felt the weight of people on me. And it got black. I could just feel the pain in my leg. And that was it. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that here I am, 7 years into the 21st century, being beaten in the halls of Congress like it's 1967. It literally felt like 2007. Like it was 2007. And it literally felt like 1967. And I felt so disheartened because here I was being beaten, and all I wanted to do was go hear the report from General Petraeus. But in that process, I recognized that we're not going to give up, and we're not going to stop. And even though I was beaten and denied entrance, and even though they singled me out, I recognized that the people must continue to stand up. Because if we don't stand up now, in the 21st century, no matter what happens to us, there's not going to be a 22nd century. And so they can beat on me, and they might beat on you. But we must continue to stand up for justice. We must continue to fight for our country and our world. Humanity depends on it.